Hello. I'd like to make a little video to get you started on Breakout. Breakout was a really good project for me last year. I think that's when I really started to see the benefit of having fields, in the different classes that would contain information about the objects, and then you could interact with the objects. Using that information, whether it be color, and then, like for example, in Breakout 2, sometimes you have those like sort of magic pills that are dropping out of the bricks. Well, like whether or not a brick contains a magic pill is like an attribute of a brick. Things like that. These magic pills themselves have attributes which like are, what they're going to do. If they hit the paddle sort of thing. So that's all just like, just a field, all that behavior just comes from adding like a piece of information to an object, right? Any hoozy doozies, let's try to do this. Let's try to make a new project. It's a Java project. We'll call it Breakout. Oh, no. I did not want to add a module. Did I add a module? Is that what I did? Who did that? Yeah, I don't like those things. Alright, so what do we need to do Breakout? I guess this could be my game development. I have an old Breakout. Well, notice I have a sound driver here. That'll be important for us to do sound, but I'm going to talk about that later. Can I just copy this thing? Yes, copy. So I put GDB5 in there. Let's make another package for the game. Alright, I'm going to go class. So I have the main method, and then we'll do class. The one I want to help today with is the bricks. So I'm going to make a brick class. A brick class. Blah, blah, blah. So just to go back to the very beginning, and talk about, well, what do we need in order to start, like, kind of pick this thing up off the ground. Well, we need this to extend GDB5, right? And I'll give us an error message. We'll get port GDB5. So add a method, so update and a draw method. And then just to get this going, we need to create a breakout object and start the game. That's really all we need to do. So breakout equals a new breakout. And we go v1 dot start. That is a GDB5. Again, this is an inheritance, this idea of inheritance. We're inheriting from GDB5, therefore we inherit all the methods of GDB5. And so when I run this thing, I think I should say blank screen. I do. And there's my blank screen. It just kind of goes off the screen. So let's modify this. I'm not saying you have to modify it to these dimensions, but just so that I can see it. Max window X is 900, which is maybe okay. I'll make it a little smaller. So 800. Max window Y, I'm gonna, oh well, I'll call that 800. Let's call this one 600. So this is maybe gonna be pretty small, but yeah, at least we can fit on the screen. Okay, that barely fits in there. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to modify it like that. Okay, modify the size. So if you want to modify the size, you know, just go to GV5, kind of reset those values. And if you refer back to those values, and that's a nice thing about referring back to the field rather than just using a number, you know, value, is later on if you want to make a change to that, you know, everything just updates. You know, so anywho's, hopefully you've kind of experienced that idea. So let's think about what a brick is. Well, a brick is going to be like a rectangle, right? Extends a rectangle. Boom, boom, boom. Gotta probably import that. And let's think. Now, this is not going to be everything, but let's think about some of the attributes we want our brick to have. And you know, as I did this project last year, I was definitely adding more attributes to the brick. You know, as I kind of thought about, you know, especially adding on the extra features. So I think one of the big things that will extend your knowledge in this game is how you can add on some of these extra features. So one thing I think is color. Obviously, there's different. You know, the bricks have different colors. You could set the color differently by just changing the color of the pen in the breakout class, you know, in your main class kind of thing. But I think it's better dealt with here. You know, so let's make a color attribute. Because this thing is a rectangle, it already has you know, X, Y, certain things like that, get X, get Y. It has all that sort of stuff built into it because it is a rectangle. If you wanted to look up, you know, all the things about a rectangle, you could just type in Java API rectangle class, and you could start to see the different fields associated with the rectangle object and different methods associated with the rectangle object. Again, our brick is inheriting all these methods. Now we can overwrite those methods and overwrite those fields in sort of what's called, in this case, the child class. But if we don't, then we'll just inherit those things from the parent class or the super class. In other words, speaking of super, when we write our constructor, right, we need to specify what constructor we want to use of the super class. And in the past, we used a constructor which took like an X, Y location. Maybe I shouldn't say X, Y. Location, and then like a width and a height. A width and a height, right? All right, so let's think about this. And so these are all fields. Interestingly enough, yeah, they don't have values yet, right? So let's think about this. So I want, you know, when we create the object, I want to be able to take an X, Y parameter. Now, I will say this, with the brick and the with the width and the height, I don't know that I really want the width and height to change. Yeah, I don't know. I want the width and the height to change. So let's think about this. Let's try this. Int. I'm gonna say int width. So it's not a field even. Ooh. I bet. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it W. Let's call it W. So there is a field called width for the rectangle class. So that could be a little tricky here because we could be confusing some things. But well, I mean, width is width, I guess. But let's just say this. I would like to maybe make it the let's say just divide by How many bricks do we want to put? I'm gonna say 8. Let's try 8. See what that looks like. And then the height, I'm just gonna set the height to be some value like 20. Okay, so let's think about where we're at. Like this. Oh, so constructor must be the first. All right. So I could just hard code these values in there. Okay, that's what I'm gonna have to do. So I'm just gonna have to say that that's my guy, and 20 is my guy. All right. So we haven't set the color. We'll just say the first color is going to be blue or something. Okay. All right. So we have the ability to create a brick. I do like making a draw method for the object too. I like that. So let's go public void draw, and then we'll say it takes a graphics to the paintbrush, and we'll go pb dot set color, the color of the paintbrush, and the color of the paintbrush is just going to be the color of the brick, right? So the brick has a color now, field, right? And we're just going to go pb dot fill, and we're going to fill the brick object, and we're in the brick class. So the way we refer to that is this. We refer to the object as this inside the class definition. All right. So here we go. I got a draw method. I got a constructor. This is looking kind of interesting. What I think makes sense is to create a array of bricks here in the those breakout class. So I'm going to say brick array, we'll call it bricks or something, equals new brick. Now how many, don't want to do that there. Yeah, I mean that's fine to do there. I think, yeah, because we're just gonna create it one time. Actually, that becomes another issue, but we could work on that as we go. Anyways, let's say at first I'm just gonna put 8 bricks in there. So maybe I'll just try to build one row of bricks. And let's see how that works. I think I'm going to have to do this in the main method. That kind of makes sense to me, because remember the update method is going to happen 60 frames per second. The draw method is going to happen 3,000 times per second. So I can't keep doing this. I can't keep building the bricks. I can only want to build the bricks one time. And so my feeling would be I want to do it in here. It doesn't really matter if I do it before or after I create the breakout object. It's just another object that we're going to be referencing. So let's say this. Let us say we need a little for loop here. We could, do we need, I think maybe we can get away with for each iteration. Let's see. For brick and bricks. Yeah. No. You silly monkey. You cannot do it because you cannot mutate. Actually, that's a very important distinction. But you cannot mutate the object when you're using for each iteration. You're only going to access the values in the array. So in order to mutate the array, you have to be going to the location in the array and doing something to that location in the array. So you need to access locations in the array using this type of structure. Yeah. Yes, that's a fundamental difference. Now you may be thinking you need a two-dimensional array, but you really don't. You just need to control the XY attributes of each brick. So to get a new row of bricks, you just need to change the Y value of that next row of bricks. So it doesn't need to be a two-dimensional array. And I'll try to leave that to you to figure out. But so first, we'll just try to get a row of bricks kind of set up here. So what I'm going to do is say, hey, this spot in the array, I want to make a new brick. And this is going to take 2 arguments. This is going to take an X and Y value at this point. And the question is, the $64,000 question is, what are these values and how are we going to control them? Well, I would say, to begin with, for sure, the X and Y values, let's say they're 0. Now, there may be a little padding in this, too. I mean, you may not want them to be right at 0, so you might want them to move a little bit off the screen, so, or move a little bit away. So we'll say 2, blah, 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 blah. And so we'll put X and Y in here. Right on. Everyone's loving this, except error messages. Bricks.length. No suggestion. Change bricks to style. Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm willing to go for that because I said let's be very hesitant to use static. And static means that this piece of information belongs to the class rather than a specific object of the class. Like what if we have multiple objects here, kind of thing going on. But first of all, we're not going to have multiple breakout games occurring at the same time. I don't see that happening, right? So we really just have one array. Like you think about the screen and the array of bricks up top. We just have one array of bricks, and it really belongs to the class. So I think this is a logical time to just have a static field, and then we're good to go. Okay, so now I've made a bunch of bricks, and I've got a breakout game. And the question will be, well, how do we see these bricks? And this is a time where we can use this for each iteration for brick B and bricks. And we just go b.draw because we have a method. It takes a paintbrush, which is win in this case, right? All right, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen, by the way, if we do this? Did I put bricks in X0? Who did that? At breakout, Java exception. Oh yeah. Because I'm only making like one brick, right? I want bricks in XI. All right, here we go. Try again. Yes, sure enough. I got one brick. But that's not true. I actually have 8 bricks. They're all in the same spot. So what we need to do is we need to change the value of X and Y, right? We need to say X plus equals some value, which would be kind of like the width of a brick. And And we could try to define that up here just to abstract a little bit and say the width is going to be GDV5 get max1 to x divided by 8. I think some of you guys can see the problem perhaps already here, but let's just try this and say width. Don't really need to change y, right? Because we're just trying to make the row here. So let's see what happens. And whoa, well, that's interesting. I think we got a whole bunch of bricks, right? But they're like right side by side. They're right side by side. So, what do we do? We want to like make these things a little bit bigger. So we want to space them out a little bit. Or we just want to make these things a little smaller, maybe. So what if I say, if I take 2 away from them, well, the problem is the width of the brick is now smaller. Oh, no, this is yeah, this gets interesting. So this is going to, the width is going to control actually where I'm placing the bricks, right? Because I'm adding that to x each time, and x is going in here, and that's like the location, right? But if I want to make the width of the brick smaller, that's actually an attribute of the brick, right? That's actually an attribute of the brick, and here's where I'm controlling like the width size of the brick. So what if here I made it a little bit smaller than that, a little bit smaller than that? It's essentially going to give it a little bit of padding. And again, maybe it'd be better to have a variable so I can control that. But sure enough, you see that we get a little bit better, something that looks a little bit better. Maybe instead of starting x at 2, I can start it at 1. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, and now I'm sort of splitting the difference. I think I have a little bit of room over here and a little bit of room over there. And maybe you don't like that. Maybe you want a little more padding, maybe you want a little more space. I saw very different projects last year. Sometimes their bricks were much bigger. Sometimes there was much more space in between them. Sometimes they wanted a little bit of an outline around each brick. These are all things to sort of figure out and consider. I'm going to leave it up to you to maybe figure out how to get that next row of bricks, which is a pretty interesting, nice little challenge. But I think this is maybe just a good push forward and a good way to kind of get you going in the game. And really at the end of the day, we got a paddle and a ball, and we're interacting with the bricks. So it's a lot like Pong again. But trust me, there's a lot more to this. Like especially if you look at the rubric, if you're going to add all those features, you really have to do some thinking with this. All right, enjoy.